Thank you for listening to Everything's Messy podcast. We appreciate your interest in health and wellness. However, it is important to note that the content provided in this podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only. The information shared here is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. The hosts and guests featured on Everything's Messy podcast are not licensed healthcare professionals, and the discussions within the episode should not be considered as personalized medical guidance. Always seek the advice of your physician or other qualified health provider with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition. Never disregard professional medical advice or delay in seeking it because of something you have heard on this podcast. If you have a medical emergency, call your doctor or 911 immediately. Reliance on any information provided by Everything's Messy podcast or its guests is solely at your own risk. This podcast may discuss general health topics, lifestyle choices, and wellness trends, but these discussions should not be interpreted as individualized medical recommendations. Every individual's health needs are unique, and what works for one person may not be suitable for another. We encourage you to consult with a healthcare professional before making any significant changes to your diet, exercise routine, or health practices. Everything's Messy podcast and its hosts are not responsible for any actions taken based on the information provided during the podcast. Remember, your health is a personal matter, and professional medical advice is essential for making informed decisions about your well-being. Thank you for listening to Everything's Messy podcast. Everything's Messy podcast brought to you by Dreamweaver Media. So, incredible company. I'm so excited that I've had the chance to work with this company. Let me tell you, if you are looking to level up your podcast, level up your business, anything that you need to get very clear and laser focused with your goals for your company, you need to reach out to Dreamweaver Media. They have a strategy session report that they will do for you. And what that will do is you will discover your dream audience persona, define your business's why, craft a brand identity that speaks directly to your target audience, identify your marketing goals, and create a custom plan and receive a detailed visual shoot plan that brings everything to life. Let me tell you, this company is amazing. So reach out to dreamweavermedia.co. That's dreamweavermedia.co. Check out their website for more information. Hey there, it's Sarah Wilson, and welcome to Everything's Messy podcast. Yep, you heard it right. Everything is messy because, well, it is. But here's the thing. In the mess, there's strength waiting to be found, and that's what we're all about here. My mission? To break the silence around chronic illness and build a community that's supportive, understanding, and downright empowering. So if you're ready to navigate the chaos, buck the conventional medical system, and embrace authentic healing, you're in the right place. We're going to tackle the big questions like how to balance it all, where the family fits into the messy equation, and everything in between. This is your messy space, a place where we're not afraid to get real, have those important conversations, and maybe even share a few laughs along the way. I'll be sitting down with incredible people, each with their unique message to explore their stories, experiences, and the lessons they've learned in the chaos. From unconventional healing methods to finding strength you never knew you had, we're covering it all. So grab a seat, get comfy, and let's dive into the messy. Because here at the Everything's Messy podcast, we're turning chaos into strength. Together, we're going to embrace the mess. Are you ready? Let's get messy. Hello, my messy people. So really quick, I just wanted to put a sensitivity warning on this episode. We talk about mental health and suicide, and I don't want to trigger anyone. So I just wanted to give that warning before this episode. And with that, let's jump into it. All right. Well, welcome to Everything's Messy podcast. My guest today, let me tell you about a messy story. What an incredible, messy, but inspiring story. I want to welcome Erynne Erdtsieck. I'm so delighted that you're here. I'm so happy to have you. How are you today, Erynne?
I'm great. I'm great. I'm really excited to be here.
I'm so excited that, I'm so excited that you're here. Before we get into the messy part, just tell us a little bit about yourself and what you got going on and stuff like that.
Okay. Hi. My name is Erynne Erdtsieck, and I am from Orange County, California, and that's where I currently reside as well. I am 45 and have a really messy, awesome story for you guys.
Well, you are in the right place. We love the mess. We also love everything that comes with it. And then, if you were able to get out of the mess, or if you're still going through the mess, and what that looked like and how that transpired. So why don't we just get into the messy story?
Okay, so as I go through my journey, what I've learned about myself is that I am an entrepreneur at heart. I love building. I love the building process. I love the stories behind businesses. And it's crazy to find myself in this journey that I'm just, doing all I can to embrace. So that's kind of where my story begins. I used to own a store, Catwalk in Huntington, and I loved it. I still love it.
Was it fashion?
It was fashion, yes. And right previous to that is when I had lost my mother to suicide. And
let's just take a moment right there. And so walk us through that. And again, I'm so sorry.
It's interesting because I've done one podcast previously, and it's like I want to jump right into my entrepreneur journey, but like the real journey is that I had lost my mother to suicide. And the difference with our situation is that if you have spoken to anyone who has lost someone close to them to suicide, most often you're going to hear, I had no idea, and I was so shocked, and I had no idea where this came from. And for our situation, unfortunately, the signs were all there. The depression was there, the eating disorder was there, the withdrawal from things that she loved was there, and yet, again, you think this is never going to happen to you. And so you don't have.
How long would you say she struggled with all of that?
I want to say since she was young, high school even, and these are all things obviously easier to look in hindsight, but we obviously didn't know how bad it was, didn't know that this is where our journey was going to lead. And you don't know until you're in it. And so,
and how old was she?
She was 55. She was 55. Her and my father were still married. My sister and I, close family, happy family. Not a lot of struggles there. Not a lot of things you would see on the outside that would take someone to this point in their life.
And how long ago was this that it happened?
This was 16 years ago now.
Oh, wow.
And so it's taken me this long even to really be able to speak about it and find a way to try to help others not have to go through what I went through.
That's an incredible opening.
Thank you.
Yeah, no. So walk through, is it complete crisis mode, I imagine, when it happens, to
yes.
Even if you saw these signs, it was maybe some shock to it?
Oh yeah. Everything is complete shock. And me and my own personality, I go straight into CSI mode in, how did this happen? And how did her therapist let this happen? And what medications was she on? Like, I think that is just where my brain goes in these types of situations. And ultimately just making sure my dad and my sister are okay, because they were there, although nobody saw it happen. They were still at home. And so you kind of just, you questions. Everything is questions. And that's what I've learned is the difference between suicide and a regular death is that you're left with questions that you most likely will never have the answers to. And so you do have to create your own closure if you can ever get there, or at least create your own peace with whatever situation that you had gone through.
Yeah, I can't even imagine. So, first, was it younger sister, older sister?
Older sister.
Older sister. So you're the baby.
I'm the baby.
You're kind of in this take charge mode.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
They're, kind of making sure that everybody's okay. And are they checking on you? Are they making sure that you're okay at this point? Or is just
Yeah,
everybody?
we all became pretty codependent on each other after the situation. And still, I think, if days go by and we haven't heard from one another, you, you get the worry or your brain goes, to that place. But I do think we've always been close, but it brought my sister and my dad and I much, much closer and a bigger support because we went through this together.
Sure, sure. Yeah, you're not, you can't escape from it. You're
Right.
going to have to
Right.
go
We have no
through.
choice but to, move through it together and try to navigate the struggles. And so I'll back up just a little bit back to, so that happened in March and I had purchased Catwalk in August. And so I just threw myself into work and found my joy in my work and in my employees and in my customers and just kind of kept going through my day. I think not even really dealing with what I had been through. And now I'm going to fast forward a little more and then I'll go backwards again. But since that time, and it's been 16 years now, I have sold the store knowing at some point I was going to start something new and build from the ground up with the purpose of mental health and supporting mental health and prevention of suicide and awareness.
Yeah.
Awareness, because what I had learned also through my situation is that nobody talks about it.
Mm,
Suicide's almost a bad word.
mm.
And you think if you talk about it, you're going to push someone down that road, when the truth is they're going to go down that road, whether you discuss it or not. But you can bring someone to a better place in life and show them the light if you do talk about it more, so that there is not such a stigma and it's not such a dark word
Yeah.
situation cloud over the word. I reached out. She had two therapists at the time, and I reached out to both. And what it seemed to me is, number one, neither knew which medication the other had prescribed.
Oh, wow.
And two, even when you do prescribe a medication, there is no concrete answer if the person is taking it or even taking it correctly.
Mm,
So I don't know. And the therapist could not tell me what had actually been discussed.
of course.
So I don't, my heart tells me that this was not discussed and not like a super, super pre-planned thing. Although there has to be some planning, right?
Sure.
Because it happened. So
Did something out of the ordinary or traumatic happen leading up to it for her? Or was it just,
no, it literally was a waking up in the morning and couldn't find her.
mm,
Not a certain day, not a traumatic situation leading up to it. It literally was just, an irrational thought,
sure.
irrational place.
Well, and I think when you're speaking about the awareness and the very little that I know about it, that incredible and insurmountable sadness that they must sit with to come to that, and how long have they sat with that? And when you talk about, maybe opening up a conversation and talking about it, maybe they don't stop thinking about it, but maybe it releases just a little bit of that sadness to, like you said, bring back to maybe some sort of light or joy or something like that. And I'm sure we'll get into this too, but what would you suggest to start that conversation?
I think simple words when it comes to someone who is in a dark place or going, through suicidal tendencies. Simple word, hey, I'm here for you. Is there anything I can do? Do you want to go for a walk? Do you want to, sit outside for a minute? I think simple things, because also what I've learned is the larger things, going to the mall, for instance, or I don't even know if people still go to the malls, but doing the larger things seems like a huger task.
Sure. Maybe overwhelming for,
Yes.
yeah.
And the directness of, are you thinking about suicide? Can go both ways. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing to ask if you know someone is going down a dark path, because maybe that's simply what they need to hear, and maybe you need that answer to take certain actions.
Sure.
But simple things, just, hey, I'm here for you, and trying to get them outside and not alone. And I think that's what my whole company, this new company, is about, is more or less just reminders that people aren't alone.
Sure.
There's so many people struggling these days, and post COVID, I think, numbers have skyrocketed with depression and suicide, and nobody
Being
wants.
indoors is not, it's not good for us. We need to be outside in nature and the sun. And I mean, just those little things, it's really amazing. Back up a little bit for me. So you throw yourself basically into your work.
Correct.
You're trying to move through the mess and the sadness that you're dealing with. And so what transpires from there?
So from there, a lot of strength, I think, that I didn't know I had, kind of to put on that face every day and deal with the customers every day, and, crunch the numbers and build the business. But also, I think that's a therapy for me in my life, because I do love work and I do love the building process. And the new company, this fresh company, the building is so much different because it's got such a higher purpose. And I want to share my message and share my story for anyone out there that has either been through what I've gone through, or, knows someone that's hurting or down, or, needs an extra bit of inspiration in their life to help them move through, the troubled waters, really.
Definitely. No, that's so admirable. So how long after you sold the business in Orange County that then this new one was born?
So it's been some time. I believe it's been about 8 years. And also, what had transpired when I sold the company was that I got married, and I instantly had two step children who were babies at the time, and I knew they needed me. So I knew, I took a deep breath, and my gut was telling me that I was making the right decision. And now, since then, we've had our own child. So I have 3 boys, and married to my husband now for 10 years.
Congratulations.
And thank you.
That's a mess in and of itself,
Yes.
right?
Yeah. Oh my goodness. That was a lot. It is a lot. I feel very seasoned in it now, but, at the time it was very overwhelming, and a lot of negativity circling that we were maneuvering through in that situation as well. Stepmoms out there, I know you can relate to that.
Definitely relate. And 3 is a game changer.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, with that brings its own mess and dealing with everything else that you're dealing with. So you kind of get on the other side of that. So then what comes?
So then, so again, I knew, and it had been on the back burner, that I was going to start a new company, and my purpose was going to be mental health awareness. And even though my background was in fashion, I had a very close friend of mine who was in skincare and had created a couple skincare products, and I wanted to add SPF to one of her products. And that's where kind of the skincare came about. And I called her one day and I said, how do you feel about me? Or how do you feel about doing this together? Let's get skincare in your products and build. And, and she said, yeah. And then it kind of became a little bit much for both of us at that time. This was about 4 years ago. And so we decided that I was just going to go down this skincare rabbit hole and bring her in as marketing and creating later in the biz. But I went down this skincare rabbit hole and found a hole in the market for SPF lip glosses. And now,
Well, and talk about why that was a mission for you. What happened there?
yes. And so let's make the story even messier. At that same time, I had discovered I had this little tiny sliver of of skin on my lip that just never felt like the rest of my lips. It always felt chapped. It always felt dry. It wasn't raised. It wasn't black. It wasn't red. It was the same color. It just was like a paper cut size skin that just was like irritated all the time. And I'm talking over a year span. And I was just a chapstick queen. And so finally, someone's like, you should probably just go get that checked out. And so I do. And the dermatologist had said, it does look precancerous, but before we have to biopsy it, let's just do some topical chemo. And then we don't have to put a hole in your lip. And with that, I was never correctly informed of how to apply the topical chemo and was not aware that it was a spot treatment and that it was literally going to burn the spot off. So I was putting it on like medication.
Oh, no.
Thinking this is going to make my lip feel better. Ooh, I'm going to have the most pretty, luscious lips. And thank goodness I didn't put it on my top lip. And I gooped it on my bottom lip. And the next day, my lip was a little bit tingly. And I texted the dermatologist because she was out of town at the time. And I said, am I supposed to be having these feelings? She said, yeah, that's normal. So I was just using it as directed, morning and night. And I think after the fourth day, my lip started becoming crusty and oozy, and
it was basically burned off.
I literally burnt my lip off, my bottom lip. It was black. It was bloody. It was a big scab. And the scabs it was terrible. It was worse than childbirth. The pain, the air was hurting it. I couldn't kiss my husband. I couldn't pucker to drink soup or a smoothie. I was reaching out, and I'm realizing that although people have done this on their legs or on their chest or maybe on their cheek, that nobody had done this on their lip before. And so that's a whole nother part of my story that and we were in Mass at the time, but my lips were so dry and so chapped, and nothing was making them feel better. Absolutely nothing. So to speed that part of the story up, I did just march into the dermatologist's office, and I said, I need help, and I need help now. I can barely breathe. And I took my mask off, and she said, oh my gosh, what has happened? And I remember her taking a tongue depressor to try to get some Vaseline on there. And I kept flinching because it was hurting, and I was so sensitive. And now I think at this point I was 12 days in of this pain and trauma really on my lip. And so she's taking this tongue depressor, and I'm flinching, and she's like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize you were in so much pain. And she prescribed me an antibiotic and told me to, just Aquaphor it up for a couple of days. And I think 4 days later, it finally cleared and healed, and it is completely healed. So for anyone out there that has gone through that, it does heal. But do use that treatment as a spot treatment. I looked at the tube, I looked at my prescription paper, and nothing on there says to just, use it mildly or to just use it as a spot. So
that's incredible. That's just incredible to me. What a terrible thing to have to go through. I mean, did you feel like your lip had just burnt off? Like there was,
yes.
Yeah.
And everyone, I guess what it had seemed to everyone else was that I had gotten cancer and that was a result of the cancer. But really what it was of the treatment to eliminate the precancerous cells.
Did it do its job in that regard?
It did. Probably even deeper than I was supposed to,
Yeah. Price to pay for a tiny little spot.
Oh my gosh. It was terrible. And even me explaining it doesn't really portray how terrible it really was. But what it does do is kind of support this, again, mental health, because I was not in a good spot. And I did find that hole in the market for these SPF lip glosses. And so I took that and I ran with it. And now even
So what do you mean by whole? So you mean that there was no lip glosses currently on the market that had any SPF in them whatsoever?
correct. There was one out there previously, and it was a very well-known company, and they had one color. And I don't know if that's good or bad that there was only one. I, did not take that as, a red flag for me, but I knew.
And you think the precancer stuff that you had on your lip was in fact due to the sun?
Yes,
Okay.
I do. And being outside all the time.
And just putting on that lip gloss and thinking you've got some sort of coverage or protection. And
Yes, I think any protection. And I know SPF is being pushed pretty hard, these days as people are going down their skincare journeys. And I think that lips are being forgotten because you can put sunscreen on your entire face, but are you putting it on your lip? Right? People, not so much. So I have created a lip gloss line currently. Well, we are gonna launch with 3 colors and most likely expand after that. But it's a lip gloss line, and it has SPF 30 in there, and it's got, antioxidants and some anti-aging ingredients. And I cannot wait. And I have been waiting and pushing and going back and forth with the lab since then, which has now been 3 years.
oh wow, what
And I actually just spoke to the lab this morning, and they're looking like beginning of February might have product in hand. So between the packaging and the formulating and all of that, that's been a very messy journey, but one that I'm very passionate about and very excited about.
Yeah, that's interesting that there's nothing on the market. I mean, of course, you have your chapsticks and stuff that have that stuff in there, but no lip gloss. And that's interesting because what girl doesn't carry around lip gloss?
Yeah, or just wants like the one swipe,
Yeah, the clear sheen
better.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah, it is interesting. So I'm super excited. And it has been a struggle to get these out. Obviously, they're not even out yet. But again,
Because of the formula or just because of all of the backup with budget and
everything, the turnover in project managers, post-COVID, and then the formulation, and then the packaging. Packaging was a whole nother story, because when you're dealing with SPF, you're now dealing with active ingredients, and you are claiming that it's actually doing something and taking them to prove your claims.
Gotcha.
And so it was a lot of that. And a lot of the verbiage on the package has to be very specific, because in California, even SPF is considered a drug. So you have to have all your usages and your directions, active ingredients, inactive. So,
and have you been able to get your hands on like a prototype? Does it feel, or
I have my samples, which I'll show you just so that you know what we're dealing with here.
oh, those are pretty.
I have 3 samples here.
And those will be the colors?
These will be the colors. So we have a nude and a mauve and a red. And all you ladies out there who are afraid to wear red, I was one of you, and I'm obsessed with our red.
I love that. So go ahead. So what is the name of the company?
So the name of the company is Mental.
Okay.
And
that goes back to helping with what's happened with your mom and things like that. And so is there any proceeds that go to?
Yes, all proceeds from all purchases will go to mental health charities of your choice. On the website, you can choose your mental health charity. One that's very near and dear to our hearts. It's called With Hope, and they specialize in mental health awareness and suicide prevention. And I work a lot with them. I love their cause, and their owner, Annette, is just a blessing. And so they actually go around and talk to schools and to teens about signs of depression and where to go if you need help, or if you know someone who needs help. They are there on call, and they are there with information and can guide you through toughest conversations, really.
Yeah, definitely. And so just circling back a little bit, Did you have any resource like that to reach out to after all of this transpired for what your family went through? You didn't.
I had nothing. Um, I I read a little bit, and we did go to a suicide bereavement group, which was both interesting and supportive at the same time. Everyone kind of tells their story and tells what they've done to help themselves through the pain. Um, but after a while, even that gets pretty repetitive. And you feel like maybe you need something else. There are
You think just because that's just reliving the pain over, like,
over and over, yeah. And I now am at a point where I can tell my story, and my hope is that my story can help anybody out there reach somebody's life. But at that point in time, telling it week after week, it gets dark.
it's just too
Dark. Yeah.
I can see, yeah.
Yeah. So with hope is there. And also there's the new 988 number you can call instead of a 911 number. If you need someone right away, or someone that needs help right away, you can call that number. And I think a lot of people's opposition to the phone call is, well, when you're in it, you're not going to think to make that call.
Mm-hmm.
And although that might be true, it's still a resource, and it's still there. And it could help at least one person out there, turn a dark situation into a lighter situation.
Is 988, is that just in California, or is that across
I believe it's nationwide.
nationwide? Okay.
Nationwide, yeah. Yeah, and it's fairly new, but I know they have had a lot of calls even since day one.
Is there like
Overwhelming.
an anonymous aspect of it?
There is.
So you don't have to be identified and things
Yeah,
like that. That
yeah.
might.
Unless you need someone to come to your house at that point in time, then obviously you have to,
Sure.
tell them your information. But there are resources out there, and that's also something I want to take this company. I want to be a resource for those, and more of a community for those that are going through dark times, not even necessarily suicide, although that's where my experience has been, but mental health issues, losing anybody close to you, breakups you can't get through, childhood traumas, just any kind of mental issues that you feel like you can't talk about. I want to be that community where it's okay. It's okay, and it is a part of life, and it's a part of my life, and it's most likely a part of everybody's life out there at some point in time, and that you're not alone.
Mhm.
You are not alone.
Yeah, I think when we think about things like that, or at least just speaking from my own point of view, that shame is sort of attached to it, and you're embarrassed, or you're just not, who wants to talk about that? But then not only that, it's, I'm ashamed that I feel this way, or I'm ashamed that, and that's removing that stigma and letting people, just feel without judgment. Those that get enough courage up to maybe make the phone call still might be dealing with feeling judged, or having that shame attached to it, or embarrassment. They don't want to talk to their family. And I think that all, comes back around to feeling judged. And I feel like if we can get into a point where there's no judgment,
Right.
really just here to help, whatever that may be. We're not judging your why or how you got here. And like that, all of that should go away, and just hold out a hand to help you out of that dark spot. And I think that's, and I mean, I don't have my hand on the pulse a lot, but I would think with everything that we have all gone through collectively as a whole, maybe it's not so much of a stigma anymore. And maybe that's why this number is out there now, to help, people might feel just, I don't want to say comfortable, but feel inclined to maybe reach out more.
Right. Right. I agree. And you do kind of hear mental wellness more than previously. And I think that's wonderful. But in that same sense, I do think also there needs to be actions taken with it, and not it just being used as like a marketing tool, or like, a
big point.
tool. Yeah.
That's a big point.
So that is a huge intention of mine, is to actually walk the walk that I talk, and be a resource for those that do need, or just need to, even we have a monthly newsletter that goes out and touches on different topics that support mental health. And even just sometimes reading through, again, as a reminder that you're not alone, can help, put a pep back in your step and show you the light.
Sure. Knowing that you're not the only one out there
Exactly.
that, is feeling this way. I think that, because we don't want to feel isolated or, feel like, no one else in the world not only doesn't feel this way, but has no idea what it feels like to feel this way. And I think removing that,
Right.
that's a huge,
And that's actually one of the huge attributes when someone gets deep into their depression is they think that I'm the only one in the world that is feeling this way.
Mhm.
And I will drill it home. And, we have some mental health positive aspiration hoodies and hats. And the whole purpose and mission is just to remind you that other people are going through those things and that you are not alone.
Well, and I think, we talk about the extreme of the extreme. I think even those that, maybe you're not completely down that well yet, but you're starting to feel that way. And maybe you can be caught or a roadblock before
Yes.
going deeper. I think that was helpful too, because I think some people be like, they'll compare themselves. Oh, well, I'm not, as bad as that person is. Well, compared to what? If you're feeling that way, if you have those feelings, let's stop comparing and let's just
Right.
help out where you need to feel that way.
Yes, exactly. You hit the nail on the head too. And a reminder that those feelings are valid.
Sure.
You don't have to beat yourself up because you feel that way.
Sure. Yeah. Your pain doesn't have to match
Right.
the,
Right.
the other person that might have more that they struggled with, but that doesn't take the validity away from what you feel.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So that's what we do is we try to remind those of their strength and their worth, because I think a lot of people who go down dark paths lose their sense of worth and feel like they no longer deserve love or no longer, deserve to be here. And that's just, not the case, that everyone's got it in them.
It's incredible work that you're doing. I think it's amazing. I think your company is going to be very successful because of that.
Thanks.
I think just having that outlet and that piece of like you were talking about the number that people can call, and like you said, just having even a stranger that you don't know, maybe listening to this podcast, feeling that way, oh, I'm not alone, or
Yeah,
I have something I can reach out to, something like that. And I just,
absolutely.
getting it out there, making people aware of it. It, so incredibly tragic and traumatic what you went through, but the way that you've kind of taken it and spun it and turned it into this giving back moment to others, I just think is so beautiful and
Thank
so
you.
messy, but
I appreciate that. Yeah.
it's just a wonderful thing. And I'm so grateful that you were able to come on and talk about it here. And I want to give you a chance to list where people can find you and when your product will launch.
Sure. And it's interesting too. And thank you for this opportunity. Leading up to today, also, you think, which part of my story, which journey do I want to go down? Because I do feel like there were so many avenues we can go down with mental health, and it's been a messy path, but here we are. And I think if anyone can take anything from this time with you is that, we all have these messes kind of, some greater than others, but makes it no less important. But it's what you do with it.
Mhm.
It's what you do with it. And I hope that I can inspire someone to make a turn for the better and to know that there are resources out there, obviously, that we are here, that With Hope is there, that 988 is there. And you can find our newsletters and some daily mental health worksheets. And we do have a new digital product coming out that I'm really excited about. And that's all at mentalskincare.com. You can follow me daily at mental.skincare, and that will be the lip glosses, the hoodies, some daily inspiration and resources. And again, all reminders that you're not alone and that you can embrace these dark sides and that it's okay. It's okay. to feel what you're
Absolutely.
feeling.
And I'll put all of the information in the show notes. Just
Thank you.
again, what an incredible message, incredible story, incredible way that you were able to take it into a positive. And I think that just speaks volumes to me.
Thank you.
I'm just kind of overwhelmed with just all of the thing. I mean, it's
A lot.
it's a lot. It really is. And you're very well, you deliver it well. And I just can't imagine
Appreciate it.
the pain and the sadness behind all that. But again, you've taken it and just turned it into turning it away from you and putting it to someone else who maybe you can help and you can. And that's just it's beautiful. It really is. And I'm so grateful that you came on the podcast.
So very appreciative.
Yeah.
Any chance to get my story out there, I'm so grateful and appreciative, because that's the mission and that's the whole purpose of mental in general, is to.
And it seems so simple, but that's a great name. That's such a great name. Did you have any issues with the name? Were there?
I cannot take credit for the name. I had 2 friends actually that helped me come up with the name, knowing it was always going to be in the mental health industry, but mental just did not jump out at me. But I will say this, that I was interviewing some branding companies, and I had come across or been given a recommendation, and this lady in Australia, and she was so excited and I was so excited, and I'm so passionate about branding and getting this message out there and really like honing in on my images. And she said, I love it, and your story is so powerful, and there's so much you can do with this, but I really think you should change the name. And
So she didn't like the name.
She didn't like the name. And it's because there's such a negative stigma around it. And I said, well, thank you so much for your time.
Sure.
I think you're missing my entire point.
The whole entire point.
That whole statement is what we are all about.
Yeah.
And it's taking that negative stigma around it and that negative cloud around the word mental, literally around the word mental, and hopefully, eliminating it through time and through speaking and allowing people the space to talk about it.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. That's incredible.
So I did run into that.
That's incredible. And I was going with the opposite. I was thinking, such a great way to embody it. But it's so simple.
That's where I'm going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So to be turned away because there's some sort of negative connotation with it, that's terrible. Well, I'm glad you pushed through.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm glad you didn't listen to her and you pushed through.
You.
And I just think it's incredible. So thank you again so much, Erynne, for being here. We wish you all of the luck.
Thank you.
Maybe have you on again when your product goes live, and we can
do it
again. Okay. Thank you again so much.
Have a great one.
Thank you so much for listening to Everything's Messy podcast. If you don't mind, if you'd head on over to wherever you listen to your podcast at and subscribe, maybe leave me a review. I would totally appreciate that. If you'd like to be considered to be a guest on our podcast, please reach out to me at everythingsmessy@gmail.com. You can also find me on social media at Everything's Messy Podcast on Instagram. I'm also on X, which was Twitter, at Everything's Mess, and Facebook at Everything's Messy Podcast. Once again, I'd love to hear from you in any capacity and anything that you'd like to share with me. Thanks again for listening.